I want to thank all you guys for coming. This is our fifth coaches panel happy hour Friday night, and we've had some really great guests today. And I've saved the best for fifth.
It's only because I'm here. Finally.
But so I'm gonna invite Ramon to speak in a moment, and if you guys have any questions as he's speaking, feel free to type them in the chat, and we'll get to them. Ramon is a good friend of ours. Ramon actually is probably responsible for us meeting. Not only that, but he was the officiant at our wedding. He actually married us, so we know him very well. Ramon is one of the coaches for the Team Determination, which is the American Cancer Society team. He has trained thousands of athletes to complete whether it's their first or second, third, whatever it is, marathon. He does an amazing job over there, raises a lot of money for a great cause, and has always got time for us. So I thank you, Ramon. Welcome you to the panel. And I know you wanted to speak a little bit about
fundamentals of training.
Fundamentals. I was going to say foundations. Fundamentals of training.
Same thing.
So why don't you give us a little, if I didn't, I know you're an ultra marathoner the last few years, and you've been picking those off too. But
I've done a little bit of everything, So I've been an athlete for 43 years. I've done everything from 1 mile to 240-mile races, Ironman, whatever. Anything out there is either been done or is about to be done, pretty much. So yeah, I'm old enough that I have enough time to do several things. I've been coaching now for 23 years. I have coached triathlon.
I think you covered your mic there, Ramon. I think.
I specifically love to coach charities, just because it allows me to transform non-runners into runners, just like you being one of the examples, right? So that's what I love to do. But I have coached all levels of running, triathlon, Boston, Ironman, Hawaii, whatever you want to call it. I've been there, done that kind of thinking. So and again, as Scott says, I'm just gonna kind of babble a little bit. Feel free to ask questions, interrupt if it's not clear. Just let me know. But I was thinking that maybe it's now that kind of the fall season supposed to be starting, because there's no races there in the fall yet. But this is something that I think is important to know. The fundamentals of training, because that applies to first timers and experienced runners, right? And I think when you talk about fundamentals, the important thing is to know, why are you training? What's the goal of training? It's about getting fit to achieve whatever goal you may have, completing or competing, right? The fundamentals are the same for both. Okay. Myself, I like to break the fundamentals like you have to train the muscles, the heart, and the head, right? The muscles, you need to train the endurance. Think about endurance as the repetition, and we'll go into it what each thing means. You think strength as the kind of the workload that the muscles can handle. Think about power is the return that the muscles give you when you do a specific motion. And then, of course, the efficiency, the amount of energy that a specific motion of the muscles require, right? Then, of course, you need to train the heart. And specifically when we train the heart, it's about the function of the heart is just send oxygen to the muscles that are active, whatever activity you do, triathlon, running, whatever it may be. The main function is just send the oxygen that the muscles need to the function. And then, of course, recovery is also an important part of training that people do not spend enough time focusing on recovery. And the last one is the head, which is like executing the race goal, executing a race plan. And before you execute, you have to pick the right and correct race plan for whatever race, triathlon, or running you may do. Okay, a training plan it's just a matter of like combining how much, how often, how long you do those activities. You know, different coaches focus more on a longer period of endurance, more power, less strength, whatever it may be. That's the difference between different coaches. Different coaches have different approaches, and different coaches will have different approach based on the type of athlete that they're training, and it depends what activity that the people are training for. So a first timer will have the same fundamentals of training, but they will probably spend more time in the endurance part of it and the strength part of it than the power of the training. You are experienced runner that want to qualify for Boston or have a specific goal for a triathlon, whatever it may be. You may need to spend, you spend less time in endurance and you spend more time on the strength and the power of the training. All right. So, so let's see. Let me talk about like strength. All right. Let's talk about first endurance. What's endurance? Endurance is just repetitions. If you think about, for us to run, swim, bike, whatever we may do, the thing we have to do is a set of muscles to move forward. There's always a set of muscles that will contract and a set of muscles that will expand. That's what it is. For a movement to happen, that's what has to happen. A set of muscles is the contraction, a set of muscles doing the expansion, right? And that's what, you know, and then in conjunction with the bones, that's what returns into a movement. That repetition, repeating that motion back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, that's what creates endurance. So it's the amount of repetition that creates the endurance. What is that important? And I think endurance is one of probably one of the mistakes that most athletes do, and is because I think too many of us spend too much time thinking about time. Think about pace per mile, meaning pace per mile, or how fast I go, or you know, how fast I go on the bike, the swimming, whatever. We focus on the endurance phase. We spend too much time on how fast we go versus like how much time we spend out there. Because remember, let's use running, which is easiest. You spend 2 hours. 2 hours. In 2 hours, if you think that when we run, regardless of the speed, we pretty much take the same amount of strides per minute. If you go now out there and you run let's call it 9-minute mile or 11-minute mile, you will notice that many of us take the same strides per minute, or maybe vary to 1 or 2 per minute. So if you think that we take the same strides per minute, regardless of the speed, 2 hours of running will give you the same amount of strides, regardless if you do a 8-minute mile or a 10-minute mile, because it's the amount of strides you take per minute. And that creates the endurance. We talk about endurance, all right? Why I say that? Because too many of us spend too much time trying to keep a specific pace during the endurance phase. And a good example is during the summer, right? Trying to run specific goal time during the summer months is just not realistic, okay? Because you will not run the same pace when it's 55 degrees. Or you can run the same pace, but running a pace that when it's 55 or running a pace when it's 100 degrees is going to require a much different effort level. So you go from being in the aerobic mode that you're supposed to do during the endurance runs to go more closer to the aerobic mode, and now the effect of the training is not what it's supposed to be, right? So that's what's important to know, that if you are starting to do training now, or for the fall season, right now for the first 6, anywhere between 5 to 7 weeks, depends if you're a experienced runner and where you're coming from the spring season to a first timer, you're going to spend 5 to 7 weeks on the endurance phase, and time should not be important at all. And what the endurance does is builds that kind of the muscle memory and the motion, and you know, and gets the body ready for what's coming next. Okay, if you do too much during the endurance phase, then your body will not be as fresh and ready to deal with what's coming after. All right. So remember, I always think that whatever you do today is not for what you want to achieve today, it's for what you want to be achieving tomorrow. You always think about tomorrow. tomorrow. It's not what you can do today. You can do a great workout today and feel great today, but if that work, is too much, stresses your body too much, whatever, the next few days, instead of taking 1-2 days to recover, it may take 3, 4, 5 days to recover before the body is ready to work hard again, right? So that's the endurance part. The strength part is when we prepare the body to deal with the workload, meaning, every time we run, there is, and I'm talking just basically running now, but every time we exercise, whatever, the impact when we hit the ground, when we press the pedal, when we hit the water, when we kick in the water, that creates a stress on the muscles, right? The strengthening phase, we need to do it for the muscles to get used to not get tired, when absorbing the impact. Remember, every time you step running, depends the speed, depends the intensity, depends if you go uphill, downhill. You can absorb 2-3 times your body weight on the joints and the muscles. All right. So if the muscles are not strong enough, they're going to get tired sooner. Therefore, that's why many of us slow down in the later miles. All right. So that's what strengthening is important. And again, depends who you are. A first timer versus a experienced runner will spend more or less time on that phase based on specific goals.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, honey. I can't remember.
Do you do the strength phase at the same time you are doing the endurance?
Depends who you are. So you do. If you're a first timer, if you have never run before, you focus completely just during the first 7 weeks. If you are a person that is being sent for a few years, you will include some strengthening as part of the endurance. Just the strength is got to be built gradually. That's why you probably heard a lot when we cross train, we do weights. For runners, it's better to concentrate more on repetitions and not weight. So usually, let's say if you use the gym, you go to the gym, strengthening during the endurance phase will be more about like doing light to medium weight, high reps, like 15, 20 reps, light to medium weight. When we are in the true strengthening phase, you go more like the higher weight, less reps. So you will do more like something medium to high weight, and you do more like 7 to 10, 12 reps during that pure strengthening. And of course, you kind of you level up as the stronger you get. You need to create enough stress on the muscles for the muscles to benefit from that specific workout, whatever that may be. So yes, a experienced runner will do more on the endurance part. A first timer will not, because before you can add stress to the body, you have to get that endurance and that repetition and the muscles to be able to handle that amount of repetition that you do during the endurance phase, because it does take first timer more time to recover, and the muscles take more stress from when they're not ready to recover from the workout than for a person that's been working through a couple of years or multiple years. That's why the experienced athletes can have it, because they have a good base. That's why you always have the experienced runners can go back into running any distance or whatever it may be, right? So that's the strengthening. The power is all about, I like to be the face of like, when you work hard, you have to work hard, and that's the phase that mostly tend to be experienced runners. The power phase is the really 90% effort and above. When we really stress the body, and it's not fun to train. It's actually, it's like it's the phase that is the most stressful, but it's the one that is more applied for those that have high goals. A first timer will not gain as much benefit from a power phase than experienced runner. Okay, because this power phase is the one that can break you if you don't do it properly, and that's why a lot of the injuries happen during the specific phase. Of course, and then we have the recovery. And I think of all the phases that I said, recovery is probably the most important. Why? Because it is during the recovery that the body will absorb the training. When you are out there running, doing hill repeats, swimming, biking, whatever, the workout itself is just creating the stress and the micro tears that happen and the chemical reactions, all the fun stuff that happens to the body when we exercise. But it's during the recovery, the body is going to say, wow, that was hard. I need to fix those micro tears that happen. I need to fix all my muscles, and I need to prepare for the next workout. So I'm gonna rebuild myself, and I'm gonna rebuild myself stronger, so I can be ready for next time, so I don't get tired. That happens during the recovery. So the body assimilates the training during the recovery. And why so important? Because recovery has to be recovery, and recovery doesn't mean do nothing. There is such a thing as active recovery. What it means, like when you recover, you have to make sure that the body stays under the 65% and below effort level. So that's in that effort, the body is not creating lactic acid. There's no extra stress to the muscle that need to recover from. Allows the body to kind of flush the lactic acid, but still fixing itself, and be able to prepare for what's coming next. What I see a lot of people doing is people a lot of times run by how they feel. They do a workout just and then go out today and they feel great. And instead of doing, let's just call it, if your recovery pace is supposed to be a 10-minute mile, but you go out today and you feel great just because the stamina or extra caffeine in your body, whatever it may be, you start running 8-minute mile, you feel great. But that is supposed to be a recovery day. So you did not do what you were supposed to be doing to help the body to absorb the training. And that's what I think the GPSs and all the stuff in social media is kind of one of the worst enemies that we have for training, because we like to post when the GPS tells us how fast we went today when I post on social media. And so you wanna post something that makes you look good or whatever. So we tend to go based on how we feel versus what we're supposed to be doing. Okay, and that's, I think, one of the worst enemies we have in training. So it is important that if I give you one tip, recovery, really treat it as recovery. And I always use the Kenyan runners, right? Sometimes we go to Central Park here in New York City, and we see some of those, elite runners, Kenyans, and they're doing recovery days, and then doing like probably 11, 12-minute mile while recovering, right? Yeah. So if those guys that can run a 4-minute, exactly, those guys that run a 4-minute mile are doing the miles at 10, 11, 12-minute mile, those of us that do more humanized pace, how low are we supposed to go, right?
Yeah, that's a good point.
So, because remember, it's the purpose of recovery is to kind of just flush all the lactic acid that's accumulated from the training, right? The higher the effort level, the more lactic acid we produce, the more lactic acid stays in the blood flow, the more tear muscle happen in the body that get stuck, and if you don't flush it off the body, it will kind of block the veins and all the blood flow. So you need to kind of flush it off. So by doing any activity, the veins, they kind of wide open more, so it's more blood going through. Therefore, you're gonna be able to flush more of that kind of garbage in our body. And when you clean the blood flow, the next day or 2 days later, whatever amount you train, the body's gonna be more rest and recovery to be able to do the proper amount of workout. And that's just the recovery. Of course, nutrition, hydration, that plays a part as well, and we can talk about that later as well.
And we got another question there, Ramon. Most marathons have the basic running training preparation, but is there a generic or basic 16-week or so strength training program that you can do to improve your running?
Right.
And I'll just throw on top of that, where in your training, for someone who's done a few already, where in your training should that strength training belong? Where does it go? Right.
So where does it belong? It's all depends on your goals, right? So you said it. There are some genetic trainings And those, and I coach myself, when you coach group, you have a more generic, but you have to realize that you have to adapt that training to your specific needs, to specific race, and to your specific weaknesses and goals. What I mean, you can have a 16-week training strengthening program. Will be different for Chicago than for New York. One's completely flat, one has a couple inclines, right? I'm a person that wanted to, and I just start running last year. I'm a person that ran for 5 years. I want to qualify for Boston. It's different. A first timer, a person that kind of still new at running or completing is the goal and enjoying it, that person should be able to, should do even without high strengthening through the whole season. It should always be, you focus more in the first, in the first 10, 12 weeks, you do more like like 1-2 per week at least, plus the extra 5-10 minutes after several runs. Because strengthening doesn't mean that you spend a whole day in the gym strengthening. You can do strengthening by doing 1 day a week, and then 5-10 minutes, 15 minutes after each of the easy runs, where you do the squats, the lunges, the stairs, whatever it may be, and just 1 day in the gym. Or you can dedicate 2-3 days, depends who you are, going to the gym, spend that kind of 40 minutes to an hour and a half, depends on your specific goals. So that's for a first timer. If you are an experienced runner and you have a specific goal, first you have to be truthful and say, okay, what's my goal? What's my weakness? What can I do now to help to achieve my goal? What happened in the last race that I can improve this coming season? So if you pace in the last marathon, if you pace properly, but you felt a little extra fatigue a mile 20 and forward, that means that's strength. Okay, that's that you were not strong enough to deal with the workload that you require of them. That's all strength. Think about marathon training, long distance training. It's not about speed. It's about strength. It's all about strength. Speed, you're talking 5K, 10K. That's more kind of speed, high intensity, 80% off level. Very few of us, if any, run 80% effort on the marathon. Just kind of those very experienced, goal-oriented runners tend to do that. So you're never going to be in the marathon. You're never out of breath, right? If you have run a marathon, you never get out of breath during the marathon. You never get to an aerobic threshold in the marathon. You never get, oh my God, can I breathe? I can hold. You always think, oh, my legs feel like tired, lead, whatever, and that's all about strength. Okay, and strength means the workload that the muscle had to take on, they were not ready for it. If you went out too fast, or you did a pace, a consistent pace too fast, the body is not ready to absorb the pounding that you're giving them. All right. So if you're that person, you have to know, okay, I got tired. I need to concentrate more on strengthening. So I want to make sure, what did I do enough in strengthening? Most of us don't. So you want to spend, if you do 4 weeks or 5 weeks of focus strengthening, maybe it's time to do 2-3 extra weeks more of strengthening, because what you did before was not enough, because you did slow down the last 6 miles, right? So that's the difference. It's not like it's not a cookie cutter that applies to everybody, because some of us, we feel pretty good through the whole race, and now we want to improve is time. So now training for time requires more of the power training versus the strengthening training, right? So it's a little bit different, but depending on your own goal. So that's kind of the difference in the training that you want to do.
Okay, we got one more question there, actually, from Denise, who I think is driving. I hope you pulled over to type your question, but no. How important is it for a beginning runner to need a personal coach for their first marathon? Is a general plan okay to use?
Yeah, yes. I have Coach Benny, but if you talk about completing, let's just face it, you just need to run. Okay, there are things that you can always do to make things easier and be more increase the chance of you having a good experience. All right. The difference between having a coach and a non-coach is that when you coach yourself, you can just follow a plan, and as long as you dedicate the time and spend the miles, you will complete it for sure. The difference between having a coach and not, you do not know what to expect from each of those runs, or how you should be feeling each of those runs, or if you are running too fast, or you run too slow, if you look good, if you hydrate properly. It's that stuff that you may not be aware of that that the coach makes the difference. The coach can help you to have a more complete training calendar, because it can tell you what your weakness is. A good coach can tell you by see you running if you need to work on your hip flexors, because your knees bubble in, or the way you run the first 5 miles versus how you feel in the last 7 miles. Your running stride changes, so it can tell you need to concentrate on strengthening, because your running stride goes from 180 strides per minute in the first 5 miles to 172 strides per minute in the last 3 miles. That tells me you lack strength. So I want you to focus on the next 3-4 weeks in strengthening, so you can have more of a steady stride throughout the whole run. That's kind of the difference. Can you complete it? 100%. Will a coach help you to increase the chance of having a better experience? Of course. And if you do have a specific goal time, the coach will always be a much needed benefit, of course, but not needed. Coaches, and depends the coach as well, needless to say.
To go back to where we were, I guess, before the first question. I had a question for you too, which was cross training. Now you talk about repetition. Obviously, we're all runners. We're talking about doing marathons and races of that nature. So cross training would be any other activity other than running that, you talk about that, doing that repetition. How much do you need when you're cross training? How much do you need to mimic that repetition? And if you're not getting that exact repetition, are you benefiting?
Yeah. So, right. So the cross training, there's two major reasons for cross training, right? Depends on the goal of cross training. If the cross training is to help you strengthening, is more low reps, and it's about the strengthening, the amount of workload that you need to do on that day. So depends who you are. You want to start building with like 30-40 minutes at the gym or doing exercises, including the recovery and warm up, to about an hour and a half. You are a person that may want to try qualify for Boston. That's a cross training workout. Okay, the goal of it is to work out, not to recover. And then you have the cross training for active recovery, which means the purpose of that is just flash the lactic acid and kind of give an active recovery to the body. And that is the purpose, just that, having limit the amount of stress on the muscles while still providing benefit to flash the lactic acid, the heart, all the fine stuff. That one you need anywhere between 35 minutes to an hour to another 10 minutes if you are an experienced runner. And that's not matter. It's not about repetitions. It's all about the recovery part of it. Okay, the repetition is more important when you are focusing on the activity itself, because the cross training helps you, because while we're running, swimming, biking, whatever we may do, we use a specific set of muscles, running flat, uphill, downhill. Remember, there's a lot of smaller muscles that they still get activated. They don't play a big part on the running, let's call it. But as we get tired, the running muscles get tired. They're going to ask for help for the surrounding muscles. So if those surrounding muscles are strong enough, they're going to be able to take a little more. They're going to be able to help more the running muscles. If they're not strong enough, they will not. They say, "Sorry, I cannot help you. You did not work me during the training season. I cannot do anything right now." So the cross training is to activate and make those other muscles strong enough to be able to help the running muscles in case their help is needed. They're all going to be activated. Like when you run, we use pretty much all the kind of the frontal muscles and the back muscles. There's a lot of lateral muscles that are being activated to keep kind of the equilibrium and balance all the stuff, right? Those muscles do a lot of work, but they get more activated as the other muscles need the extra help. So that's why you need to do all those lateral movements and more of the cross training workouts that we do. That's the reason why we do the cross training. That's why you hear all the physiotherapists, doctors, whatever, that cross training is important to prevent injuries. That's what it's for.
Gotcha. So going back to before the last question, I guess. Now we talked about the endurance phase,
Right.
and kind of doing that 5 to 7 weeks of building your endurance, and then kind of going into more of a strength phase where
right.
you're building up. When
Right.
you get towards, for example, let's just take the marathon for example.
Right.
But if you're training for a half, you can just kind of adjust the ratios.
Right.
Where are you looking to kind of cap out? And let's say, how do you address the long run, and where do you cap out in terms of distance, or out? You mentioned that it's not always important to do it in miles, but more in time.
Right.
Where do you cap out in terms of like your last workout towards before race day?
Right. So that's a good point. Let's talk about the long run. Okay. Remember, I told you at the beginning that it's about repetitions a lot of times, right? So I think a lot of injuries happen because people get too caught up on mileage and on doing those long runs every single weekend. And yes, the long runs do create a benefit, but it's not just do them, it's how you do the long runs. A first timer, experienced runner will do different type of long runs, okay, and how long they go. I always tell my first time runners, I always tell them that it's not that they can go, let's call it for the marathon, they can go up to 20 miles. That's going to get them ready to run the marathon. Is because everything that they had to do to get to 20 miles, everything in between is what they get them ready. I like my runners to go up to 20 miles, not because it's gonna make them more physically prepared. It's because I know that it's gonna provide more of a confidence. All right, so that 20 miles is more confidence than anything. I can get you more physically prepared with a training regimen that with up to 50 miles that to up to 20 miles, just doing a couple of them. All right, you will get more prepared if you do more 15 runs than you do 1 or 2 20 milers. That 20 miler is just kind of more of a confidence. Okay, it's all about, because we talk about the repetition, it's all about what you do in the whole training plan that's going to get you physically ready when you are a first timer. Okay, now based on miles for a first timer, it's not about the cap, like, oh, you did 20 miles, you're fine, you did 80 miles, you're fine. You can have a first timer that has done, like 5, 7, 9, 11, 13, 15, 15, 17, 17, 19, 18, 20, right? And you can have a first timer that does 18, 18, 20, 20. That's it for long runs. That first run will be more physically ready because it's been doing more time on their feet more times. So it's not about the length, but it's like the accumulative time on your feet during the whole period of training. Now, experienced runners, experienced runners get too caught up on the long run, and I think they're the ones that get too caught up on the long run. Okay. One of the major mistakes that we make is we go out too fast, right? Too much stamina. There's 3 different type of runs that experienced runners should be focused on. Okay, one is the typical endurance run. Time on your feet, pace is not that important. It's anywhere between 60 seconds to 90 seconds. It's lower than your goal marathon pace. And I can tell you, very few experienced runners run that pace. The goal of those long runs, endurance runs, is about what we talked about before, endurance. So pace is not that important. It's about the amount of time. It's about kind of the amount of repetitions that you do. So think about if you are a experienced runner that runs your training runs at the same pace. You do let's call it 20 miles. That's 2 hours and 40 minutes, whatever it may be. If you slow down a minute per mile, and you're going to be running about 3 hours on race day, if you slow down your run, you're going to spend closer time to the total time you spend on race day. So that's going to give you more of a benefit. You know what I mean? So spending 3 hours when you're going to be running 4 hours on the marathon, it won't give you as much benefits. You run at 3 hours and 40 minutes when you're going to spend 4 hours on the marathon. And that's for endurance runs, okay? Which is just, again, pacing is not very important. Then you have the pacing runs, and there is two of them. There is the ones that you want to teach your body to run the specific goal race pace. Okay, so and those can be two different types. Can be the one that you can run. Let's call it you go for a 14-mile run. You do 4 miles, 5 miles to your easy kind of warm up pace, and then you do 6, 8 miles at a goal marathon pace. Eventually, you're going to build those up to about like 10, 12 miles at goal marathon pace. All right, so you will do some of my 20 miles will not be just running 20 miles. I will do 8 miles very easy, about 90 seconds per mile slower than my goal pace, and then the last 12. Okay, now that I've been spending enough time, my muscle already a little tired. Let's teach them to run my goal marathon pace while already a little tired, and that's where you're gonna focus, because and it's not faster. It's specific goal marathon pace, because the muscle memory, the recognizing what the marathon goal pace feels like is also very important, because that diminishes the chance of you going too fast too soon, right? In the race. So that's definitely another run. And then you have the runs that is all about marathon pace, and it's about you go for 14, 50 miles, and you go pretty much, you start marathon pace for about 80% of it. In the last 20% of it, you will increase the pace to go faster. Why? Because if you run 14 miles marathon pace, when you know you have to run 26 at that pace, be able to go faster at the end, 2, 3, 4, 5 miles. And we talk about 20 seconds, 50 seconds per mile, whatever. That tells you that the pace that you're running is not too fast. If it's 5 weeks before the race and you're running 14 miles and you can barely run that marathon pace, it's no way in hell you're going to be able to run that pace for 26 miles 5 weeks later. If you're able to run 40 miles and then you're able to run a couple miles faster and feeling kind of decent about it, that gives you a good confident burst that, you know what, that's a decent pace, because I can go faster and I actually didn't feel that much tired as well. All right. And also, it helps you to, for those that may be running a race that requires to run negative splits, let's say like Chicago, where you want to try to run the second half before the first, it teaches you to make the switch, like, okay, now I'm going to make the move. I'm going to, this is where I'm going to make the move now. The last 5, 6, 8 miles, whatever that may be, based on your experience, you go race, blah, blah, blah. So that's for speed runs, those are the speed runs you need to spend. Just running miles and miles does not help you much, because what happens during training, when we do the workouts, we go faster than marathon pace, and when we do the long runs, most of us go slower. So that's why when we go to the race, it's hard for us to recognize what the pace feels like, right? That's why you have a lot of people that they go out, oh, I went too fast, and they put a brake, and then they go too slow. Oh my God, went too slow, had to go. And the pace is up and down. And the GPSs are okay. I'm not, but the GPS will never tell you the accurate pace at the right moment. The GPS are very accurate when you complete the mile, right? A lot of the GPSs, and you cannot, if something is wrong with the GPS, how many times I heard people, oh, I was doing well, but then my GPS stopped working, and I was all over the place. If you train properly, the GPS will be just like, give you an idea of which mile, and then every mile you need to adjust based on what you see on the watch. And of course, we'll talk about the race execution later, but what it says on the watch, you have to adjust to the course itself as well.
So Denise, and I heard you mention muscle memory, and Denise's follow-up question with that was, and I'm going to try to rephrase this a little bit, is that she thinks that she's in the habit of running too slowly, doing slow runs, and how does she break that muscle memory if it's too slow? Like, how does she work in more speed? Denise, I'm hoping I'm kind of changing that and making that a little more productive question for people. But how does she break bad muscle memory?
So if you feel that you're gonna get to let's say run faster or get to the point, okay, I'm gonna get more comfortable with running faster or increasing my effort or challenge myself, whatever you may want to call it, anybody can do it. So you will start with a very easy workout. Let's say you go for your 30 minutes, 40 minutes, whatever it may be, once a week, and then you pick today in the middle of my run. I'm gonna do 5 little pickups of 1 minute. I'm gonna do 1 minute fast, 2 minutes recovery. Repeat that 3, 4, 5 times, right? And eventually you do that for a few times, and as you feel more comfortable, more and more confident, you can increase the length of the pickup or decrease the recovery. Now, picking up the pace doesn't mean that you sprint it. It's not. It's about work about effort levels. Just put enough effort that you get your breathing gets a little more elaborated. You know, you don't want to get to the. So think about it. Using the breathing as the effort level. That the edge of the aerobic to anaerobic is about 80%, give or take. Our breathing during that 80%, it doesn't get faster, it just gets deeper. So let's just say, normally when we run easy, we take about 2.5 to 3 steps per breath in and out. Same length in, same length out. When we get to within that 80%, the breathing doesn't get faster, it just gets deeper, it gets more like. So the rate does not increase a lot. It's just it's just how deep you breathe. Okay. When we go about 80%, that's when we get into the anaerobic mode, and the breathing get more shallow and faster. So you can use your breathing as you guide. So as long as you do enough that the breathing gets a little deeper than you normally do, you're already getting that the benefit of that specific workout. And then it's just a matter of like repetition, week after week, take your time, and getting the confidence of it. Because a lot of it is just the be able to deal with that discomfort. You know, a lot of the running is you have people. You may have 2 runners that are the same genetic performance, same everything, and one may be faster than others because that person is able to handle that discomfort of running a little better. And that's why they say women tend to be better on distance, because the study said they can handle the pain, discomfort running better. So definitely start with 15 seconds, 30 seconds when you challenge yourself a little bit, just a little bit. And eventually you find yourself in 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks finding that you're gonna do, okay, last few weeks I did 30 seconds, I'm gonna go 45 seconds. So I'm gonna do 1 minute. Oh wow, that's not too bad. I can do that again and do, and you build it up, and eventually you increase the length or decrease the recovery time. And that's what helps you with muscle memory, because a lot of it's like the neurological system sending the brain, send the signals to the body to push hard and to get off the ground fast. That's what speed is. How fast you get off the ground and the power that you create coming off the ground. As I mentioned before, and maybe it didn't make sense for you, like when we run slow and run fast, we run pretty much the same straight length. And how can that be, right? How can you run, let's just call it 8 minute mile and 10 minute mile and take the same amount of strides? The reasoning is because you go faster, because when you get off the ground, you create more momentum that will cover more ground moving forward. And that's what speed is, the amount of ground that you cover per stride. And that's based on the dynamics and the power that you generate when you push off the ground. That push off the ground, when the feet pushes off the ground and the upper body engages, that momentum propels you forward, and that's what creates speed. Not the amount of strides that you take, is the momentum that you create on that specific each stride that you take.
Right, and that makes those speed intervals a little bit more important. And what's kind of interesting is when you said that, I kind of reverted back to Denise's prior question, which was about coaching. And a lot of time when you get those sort of cookie cutter plans online, it just gives you a number: run 3 miles, run 4 miles, and then you do the same pace every single time, and you don't ever. So that's maybe when you get stuck in those, right. In those ruts of just in that bad sort of muscle memory period. And like you said, those intervals, mixing in those intervals, those speed intervals, I think are very helpful. Moving on to Debbie's question. Debbie's done a bunch of marathons, probably upwards of 10 or more. And so her question was, for a person like her who's done multiple marathons, who has experience, how many 20 20 or 20 plus mile long runs would you recommend in her training cycle before a marathon?
Right. So it depends on the goal. You have a goal. First, you have to know what's your goal. If you tried the goal before, what you didn't achieve it, right? And based on that, then you have to modify your training, right? So as I mentioned before, it's not about the 20 miles that you do, it's how you do the miles. For us experience, it's about how we do the miles, okay? So for those of us that we run for years, endurance is not gonna be the issue because as long, the body, the muscle memory, the endurance that we gain through the years is in there. We just need to kind of modify a little bit. So for somebody like you, I will say, myself, again, depends on the goals, but I will do pretty much probably anywhere between 3 to 7 runs over 17 miles. Now that's over 17 miles, right? 3 to 7, but it's not about how many. Now it's like how many of those, how do I run them? So I will probably have like, let's say if I do 7, I will have 3 of them. It's just endurance. It's just a kind of my 20 mile. Maybe some of you like to go to 22 miles. Myself, I tend to just go to 20. If I train I'm going to train for marathons, I used to go to 20, but go slower. That would take him as much time if I go faster and run 23 miles, right? And then the other runs will be, I will do 2 or 3 where I go anywhere between 12 to 14 miles a marathon pace. And that will happen. I will do, so in the last 8 weeks, I tend to alternate slow and long, pacing about 12 to 14 miles marathon pace. And the third one will be kind of the 25-30% slow, and the 60 to 80% depends the day a marathon pace. So I in the last few weeks of training, when I'm like focus on the peak phase where the workouts get harder, stronger, all the fun stuff, I focus on those runs. So I'll alternate 1 to 3, 1 to 3, 1 to 3. That's what I do the last few weeks, the last 8-9 weeks of training. That's what I mean, that works for me. That's what makes sense for the body. Just because running like 20 miles in the last 9 weeks doesn't make sense, because it's just going to help you to know that you can run long, but can you run long at the pace that you're going to run? And that, only the other runs, because, and I was going to talk about that later, for experienced runners, one of the mistakes that we make is we decide our goal race, our goal time before we start the training. And that's okay. Let's say based on experience, run 10 marathons, to say, I did my whatever 3:55. I would like to be closer to 3:50. That's great, and that's good to start training. But you need to adjust and decide the final goal time based on training. People tend to do, okay, I want to run my 3:50, whatever that may be, and regardless of what happens in training, I go race day for 3:50, whatever that may be. Even if training tells you that either you could go faster or nothing tells that you can run that 3:50 pace, the 3:50 marathon. Because if you can run 12 miles at a goal marathon pace, feeling pretty good 5 weeks before the race, there's no way in hell you're going to be able to hold it like 3-5 weeks later, right? For 26 miles. Just does not make sense. So you have to be honest to yourself and say, you know what, it's not going to happen. I need to kind of modify. Or the same way, oh my God, 3 weeks before, that was very easy. I'm going to go for like 3:47 or 3:46, which that's another issue about people going for like the round numbers, the zeros, the fives. There's something wrong with the runs that we can only handle the zeros and the fives, 6, 7, 3s. That's a whole issue in itself.
All right. So Scott Fassard had a question. And I think this question is very good for this point in the conversation. Runners who are running to compete versus those who are just running to complete a marathon.
Right.
What are the different approaches in terms of training and getting ready? You mentioned race pace a lot.
Yeah.
And I remember training for my first marathon under you, and it would get I would get something in an email, and it would say, oh, do so-and-so at race pace. And I would say to myself, what the hell is race pace? I have no idea. I've never run this far. I have no idea. So maybe if you can kind of mix that in there as well.
Right. So race pace makes sense for those that have experience, either because they've been running, they've been running for that doesn't matter what it is. Could be from a 10K and above, right? A person that has run a 10K can have, if talking to the coach or even researching, you can have a certain idea of what a kind of realistic goal pace will be to start with, right? And as I just said before, eventually you may have to change that. So race pace pretty much is what many runners use as a reference of the effort that should be put in, right? Experienced runner, they're supposed to be running a 5K, about 90% effort, give or take, right? 10K also 85 to 90. The half marathon goes more to 80%, and the marathon goes more like 70, 80%, depends on level. Again, the level of experience and competitiveness is very different, right? I believe myself, a person that runs a 6-hour marathon is as competitive as a runner that does 3-hour marathon. It's all about effort level for me. You can have a runner that runs 3 hours and a runner that runs like 5 hours. The effort could be pretty much, for some of them could be the same. It's just everything else that plays, body types, muscle strength, fitness level, genetics come into play when you come to that. So when you compare that, regardless of the speed, right? So you can use that pace to give an idea of what effort you're supposed to be doing that specific workout. Some people use pace, some people use effort levels. Some, in the good old times, some people used to, we still use heart rate. The heart rate, many people heart rate as well, which is pretty much effort level. So you have the perceived effort level, which I use, that's what I use myself a lot. I use based on the breathing, right? Some people use the heart rate and some people use the pace. Pace is more a reference, and I don't think the pace is accurate because let's just use the summer, as I mentioned before. It's going to be 90 degrees weather, and this is a workout you're supposed to do a 5K pace, let's just call it. To do the 5K pace in 100-degree weather, it's going to require a lot, and you may not even be able to do it. And if you do it, you are stressing the body too much. So instead of recovering 1-2 days, it's going to take 4 or 5 days to recover, right? By using effort level, you are producing enough stress to the muscles that they will regain the benefit of the workout without stressing too much, right? The only reason why it's good to train at a specific pace in a specific weather type is if you're going to run say Miami Marathon is going to be hot, then and you have a specific goal time, then this pace is more to start adjusting to work that pace to get acquainted and get get used to run that pace on those weather conditions. So it depends. But myself, I think more and more people are getting better at working by effort and heart rate. Of course, now that pretty much every guy shows you heart rate. The problem with the people that train for heart rate, they don't really follow it so much, But so race pace is a good reference, but it's not going to be always accurate,
Yeah, and then to Scott's question, and I think I just totally hijacked his question. But how do you approach a runner who's just going to do their first marathon, and they just want to do it for fun and to finish and get a medal, versus someone who's sort of hardcore and really wants to give it their best? How do you change the approach while training?
Right. So somebody that wants to just have fun, as a coach myself, is based on personality. As I said before, if you just do the mileage, the workouts, you will complete the marathon, right? So if you're a person that my personality, I just want to enjoy every single run and just want to be physically ready to complete it and have fun, you just need to run. The workouts, all the other stuff can play a part to help you, but you don't really need it, like, to complete it. right? One thing is like can help versus needing. Okay, you just want to say as long as you run, you build endurance, you will have all these other phases help you to create more strength and whatever, and therefore increase the chance of having a better race if you are a first timer. All right. Now, when you are a experienced runner with a specific goal, you have to focus on every aspect of it, because focusing on every aspect of it increase the chance of you getting to race day as fit as you can. And you probably heard about peaking. You have people that do a lot too much too soon, and they're going to see a lot of improvement early on, but then they're going to get stuck and even start going down, start feeling too tired. The body, and that's because they don't recover properly. The body gets overworked. The muscles never recover from the stress that you created through the many weeks of training. So you see that the key is like just do enough to continue to gain benefit, right? And at one pace it will increase, another pace will increase again, and get to the top, and then 2-3 weeks before the race, be on that phase that you are like the body is pretty much as strong and as fit and as much power as you could have as you being able to do in those weeks of training. All right, and then you just let the body taper for 2-3 weeks, depends on your approach, and then the body will be ready for race day, and then it's about executing the program. Now, how much you do in that training is based, based on your coach, based on yourself. The person that's run the 10 marathons, that person, the endurance phase for the person could be like 3-4 weeks, right? Then that person that knows, okay, I usually get tired the last 6 weeks, and the last 6 months of the race, I usually do just like 3 weeks of strengthening. I'm going to spend now 6 weeks of strengthening. So it's more hill repeats, more going to the gym, more tempo runs. Those create strength. Tempo runs, think about hills, tempo runs create strength. Those are pure strength workouts. The far legs, the repetitions, that is a mix of strength and power. Okay, so then you want to go faster, then you do the 6-7 weeks of strength, and then you move like 4-5 weeks of power, which is the high reps, the far legs, they start getting faster and faster as the progression workout where you do like 1 minute, let's say 5 times 2 minutes, 10K pace, and then you move like 10 times 2, 3, 4 minutes, 5K pace. So you kind of try to push the body more in the second part of the workout. Those depends on the workouts that you create, depends on the coach. So that's the difference. One is strengthening, hills, tempos. The other one is more like power, which is more like the short, more intense, hard workouts that brings the heart rate higher, and they're not really fun. They're fun when they're over, but not during the workout. So that's the difference between the two, But again, there's no cookie cutter to say, okay, you need to do 4 weeks, 5 weeks. You need to know who you are, your own goals, your own, what you've been doing, your experience. I cannot tell you right now, okay, just do that because I know you've done 10 marathons. This is what you should be doing, because it's like, okay, what's your goal time? I will have to look at you progression over the years and see how you achieve, let's say, the goal time. Because if I see a person, you can have 2 persons that, let's just call it, do 4-hour marathons, both of them, but one of them run like 9-minute mile for the first 24, and then go down to 9:30 for last 2. And then you have a person that went all over the place, 8-minute mile, 8:30, 9, 8:30, 10, 10:30. The one person tells me, okay, the person that runs more even is more about strengthening and power, and the other one can get like 10 minutes of gaining 10 minutes in the race just by properly pacing, right? So it's not just about you go where you run the marathon in. It's like how you run it makes the difference and tells you where you can improve, right? So that's
Gotcha.
there's so many aspects in the trainings. That's why I tell you the cookie cutter trainings are a good guide, but you have to adjust it to yourself.
Right. That's interesting, and you gave a lot of good suggestions there to be able to modify it, to improve. Great question from James Morris. I think this, and I'm sure that you have good answers because you probably deal with this all the time. Someone with an irregular schedule. So you get these cookie cutter plans. They tell you what to do on what day, but then you find someone. This guy. So James is a trucker, He's got an irregular schedule. From one day to the next, he probably doesn't know what he's doing. What is your advice for someone in that situation where, hey, I don't know when I'm going to be able to get out, how many times a week I'm going to be able to get out, but I really want to do this. Can it be done?
Right. Again, I mean, consistency is definitely key. You know, as I told you, it's not what you can do a week, 2 weeks, but consistency. So it's about kind of trying to be realistic. Consistency doesn't mean like every Tuesday, every Wednesday, every Thursday. But you know, like I know I can dedicate 3 times per week, one day 40 minutes, one day an hour, one day 2 hours, right? Let's just say you have to be realistic with what you have, and then based on the time you can allocate to training, then you know where you can kind of fit the training, right? So let's say 3 days, and you know most of us have regular jobs, and we're able to do our long runs mostly on the weekends. James probably, you know, who knows what he can do, right? So maybe he has to do it on a Wednesday, or he was planning to do the long run on the Saturday, and then something happens that he doesn't have like 3 hours to run, so he only has 2 hours. So instead of you know, the least amount of time that you have, the more quality training you need to do. All right. So that means that if you don't have many 4-hour days to do the long runs, but you have several 2-hour days, you do those 2-hour days, and you can increase the pace a little bit. So you usually run 10-minute mile when you do the 4 hours, just call it. You only have 2 hours. Instead of 10-minute miles, you're going to do 10-minute miles for an hour, and then 9:15, 9:30 for the next hour. Physically, the heart and how physically we gain benefit, that is pretty much even to do like a 3-4 hour run physically. You know, it doesn't create as much endurance, but it creates the same kind of stress in the muscle that will be able to get them ready. And again, as long as you stay consistent through the whole season, you will have enough of those repetitions to get you ready. So you focus on those days that you have to focus on the other things that can help you a little more, which is the strengthening. Remember, long distance running is about strengthening. So if you don't have so much time to build extra endurance, you're gonna focus on at least get the muscles strong. Okay, so because we train endurance regardless of what we do, right? It's one thing is focusing endurance, and one thing what we do the whole season. When you get out there, you're building endurance regardless, because that repetition is happening, right? It's just a difference between knowing that you're getting endurance versus focusing in endurance. One is like one is by default, by being out there, you gain endurance, and one is like, I'm gonna focus on endurance because I just wanna focus on the repetition without stressing the body too much. So it's a difference between the benefits of the workout versus what you actually focusing on. Anytime you get out there, you're building strength, endurance, and everything else, right? It's just more or less of it based on what you do for the specific day, all right? So as long as the heart pumps blood, the muscles are getting a workout, this stuff that happens more or less, but you're always going to get the benefit of just moving, regardless of what it is.
Yeah, that's great. And Ramon, I want to thank you for spending so much time with us tonight. If you got anything else to add, you can certainly throw it in there. I know it's been kind of probably a trying year for you. Oh, we got one more here, but I know, like with American Cancer Society and all the races, Boston, New York, everything's getting canceled on you.
Yeah.
It's been a crazy year. Let's just answer Nick's question here. When I start a race, I know I won't win. Why not,
Yeah,
Nick?
I guarantee you that.
So I'm not getting into a competitive mode. All races feel like a group training run. Is there a mind trick to wake up sort of that inner lion and get after it on race day?
Yes, a few tips. While running is an individual sport, and it's okay to be competitive, and it's okay, you want to use others as a measurement of yourself. It's not about beating the person ahead of you because you want to beat the person. It's because it motivates you to a specific goal, right? There's some people that want to be first, and some of them just because they want to brag and rights, and other people because they just want to know that all the work that they did got into the best they could be, right? So a little tip, I'll go to a race, and remember, you are running a long-term process. So never be afraid to fail. Workouts and races are just part of the learning process. So if you want to improve, you have to be willing to risk. And it means like in a workout, you go a little too hard too soon, and you die at the end. You learn from it. It's okay. It's a workout. That's what the training is for, to make the mistakes during training so you don't make them during the race. During a race, if you are a little aggressive and I want to keep up with that person ahead of me, I want to try to catch up and see if I can catch it, and then you go and keep up with the person, and then the last mile you just die and you cannot hold the pace. It's okay. It's okay. But unless you try, you don't know if you can do it. So you have to be willing to risk, and don't put yourself down if it didn't happen. If you don't beat the person or you were not able to keep, just know, okay, so you know what, maybe I started too fast, or maybe I sprinted too much, or maybe the person had a second, whatever it may be, but you have to be willing to put yourself and be willing to fail, because that's the only way you will learn what you can achieve, unless as you put yourself out there. The same thing when you start running. You will never know that you could run a marathon unless you start training for it, and then you decide, I could do a marathon. Oh, I wonder what else I thought can do, and now I can do. That's what it is, really.
Yeah, and just a personal anecdote there. We went and watched our friend run New York City Marathon last year, and we met him in two places, and we met him at mile 8, and he was way ahead of pace, and he was smiling and so happy. He was like, I'm going after it. I'm getting it today. Today's my day. And then we saw him at mile 23, and he didn't feel the same. But he was, at the end, he felt happy that he went for it. He would, if he would held his pace throughout the whole day, he would have crushed his PR. And like you said, there's no way to know unless you go for it. So, the aggression, I don't know if it's a personal, if I have a personal, like I don't know, secret to waking that up, but go for it.
It's confidence. It's about running. It's about building confidence, right? It's about building confidence. I always tell my runners, the secret of training is to get you to the start line confident that you can do what you set up to do. It may and may not happen, but at least when you get to the start line, you have to be confident that you did the work to go for the goal that you are setting to do that day. If you have doubts, it's either because you either pick a goal that maybe is not realistic, or because you don't really trust what you did in training to go for that. But if you do the training, the goal is to get to start line and say, okay, you're nervous, because when you put the work, you should be nervous. All of us do if we care about what we're about to do. But you go, okay, I'm going to go for it, and I'm going to be confident. Nervous, but confident. And then it's just about executing, that's the number one mistake. With executing, we can have a whole discussion about that. Executing race plan is the number one mistake that we make, because people just, go out too fast, set up the wrong goals, blah, blah, blah. But getting to start line confident that you're going to go for it, that's the purpose of the whole training.
Yeah, I think that's a great answer. I hope that answered your question, Nick. So going back to just sort of concluding here, I guess, American Cancer Society, you've had a tough year with the team, with all the races getting canceled. What's sort of I know you've done a couple other events and things like that. So what's on your plate? What's going forward for Ramon and for Team Determination?
Well, for myself, all my races, I was hoping that one was not canceled, but just canceled last week. So now I don't have any races. I come out with something. It's just, hey, it's what it is. I don't need races. Races just kind of motivation. So myself, yes, I already have the race for next year, so that's not an issue. For the American Cancer Society, yes, I mean, just like every organization, we are suffering quite a little bit right now as an organization, providing programs that we want to provide to our constituents, cancer patients out there. So yes, like with New York City being canceled, that's going to be a big hit to us financially, therefore our programs. But it's not a surprise, so it's not like so I'm already thinking next year. I'm coming out with B plans. We still have a few races that we partner with that is still open. Marine Corps they're looking to actually holding the event. They just announced they're going to do 24 500 people waves. So hopefully that one will hold. We have New Jersey, we have Napa Valley. Myself, I'm actually, even the marathon's not happening, I'm still having a training season for the fall. I actually see one of my coaches, David, here in the call. And I'm actually planning on doing both a virtual and in-person race on November. I think we're gonna run, because we cannot run from Saturday night, I think we're gonna do a 4-borough, 2 states run. We're starting in Brooklyn and run all the way to Staten Island, to New Jersey. Kind of pretty much the same course, open field. I will come up with something. And of course, we have some virtual events. We did this, determination runs the country, which we have 500 people doing it. It was pretty awesome. We're kicking off on July 8th. Determination takes on the world. So we are going to run the whole distance of the planet. We're going to do some fun activities. And recipes and social media and stuff. So I will come up with some stuff, but and I'm already planning for 2021 already, getting some new partnerships. We'll go to Rome Marathon, back to Paris, Miami, Shamrock, a few new events into our portfolio. So still on the works, but yeah, that's where we are right now.
Great.
Still adjusting.
Awesome. And where can we find Determination if we need to look it up, if anyone's interested?
Yes. So Determination website. If you go to cancer.org/determination, that will give you a list of all the events that we partner with across the country. We partner pretty much with partner with every major event in the world, from 5 of the 6 majors, and all the stuff. So
yeah,
biking, cycling, triathlons, you name it.
And as 2 people who have been through the program, we love it. And if you guys have the opportunity to do it, I definitely would, it's definitely a way that you can do some races that maybe you couldn't qualify for or get in for otherwise, and support a great cause. And we go to the dinner, even when we're not running, we try to go to the dinner.
We try to go to the dinner every
because
year.
It's so amazing. Even though Ramon tells the same jokes every year.
Every year. If it's not broken, don't fix it.
What do we do? Wait for it. 3, 2.
Listen, Ramon, thanks so much for coming on. I really appreciate it.
No problem. Thank you, everybody. Nice meeting everybody. Good luck.
Yep, go ahead.
No. Good luck to everybody with your plans. Feel free to reach out if you have any questions.
Good stuff. Just so you know, in 2 weeks, we'll have Allison Knott back. She's our team dietitian. So we'll be doing another one with Allison. And I know that, nutrition and diet is always a big, we didn't touch on it a lot today, but it's always a big portion of training. And so we'll have her here to talk about that in 2 weeks. So I thank all you guys for coming around, and hope to see you in a couple weeks.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you so much.
Bye. Thank you, Ramon. Bye.
Bye, David. Be good, guys.
Bye.